A woman cleaned out her late father's garage last fall. Up in the rafters, wrapped in cloth bags and dented aluminum tubes, she found 3 old fishing rods. They looked like dusty sticks. She sold all 3 at the yard sale for $15. The man who bought them read the faded name printed just above the cork on one of them, drove home, and listed that single rod for $4,200. She had no idea what she'd been storing over her car for 30 years. And you might not either, because there are 7 old fishing rods quietly becoming priceless right now, and most of them look exactly like junk. Faded wraps, a little grime on the cork, tucked in a closet or a barn. People throw them out or snap them for firewood because they think an old rod is worthless. One of them on this list sells for more than a good used car. Before we start, hit subscribe because this channel finds hidden money in old gear every single week. And drop a comment right now with the oldest rod in your house and the name printed above the cork. And I will tell you straight if it's a hidden fortune or actual junk. Let's get into it. Here is the one rule that decides everything, and I want you to remember it for every rod on this list. The value is not in the wood. It is in the name printed just above the cork grip. That single faded word is the difference between a $5 stick and a $15,000 heirloom. Read the name. Counting down from 7. Number 7. The Shakespeare Wonder Rod. That white or honey-colored fiberglass rod hanging in half the garages in America. People assume it's worthless because it's everywhere. Here's what they don't know. Shakespeare didn't even build their own rods for years. They were supplied by South Bend, Montague, Heddon, and the master Gene Edwards. And the better wonder rods and the presentation models are genuinely collected now. A common one brings $40 to $120, but the early and top-tier glass is climbing fast as collectors wake up to vintage fiberglass. Look at the reel seat and the wraps. The presentation models and the Gene Edwards builds have a finish quality you can feel the moment you pick one up. Don't snap it for a tomato steak. The next one is the glass rod serious collectors actually chase. Number 6. The vintage Fenwick fiberglass rod. To most people, it's just an old glass rod. To a growing community of collectors, Fenwick is the name that made fiberglass respectable, and clean vintage Fenwick blanks are quietly being hunted at every estate sale. The honest truth is they're still cheap, $50 to $160, which is exactly why now is the moment. Because vintage glass is doing what bamboo did 30 years ago. Climbing slowly, and then all at once. The model numbers on the blank tell you exactly what you have, and the ones that survived in mint shape with the original bag are climbing the hardest. If you've got a Fenwick in the corner, that is not a throwaway. The next 4 rods are split bamboo, and this is where the real money starts. Number 5. The Heddon Bamboo Rod. James Heddon and Sons, out of Dowagiac, Michigan, built bamboo from 1911 to 1956. Some of the finest, moderately priced cane rods ever made. People see an old bamboo fly rod and think decoration. They do not read it. The way the name is stamped actually dates it. The rods before 1933 have the name straight along the shaft. A standard Heddon brings $150 to $600, and the top grade models, like the number 50 Deluxe President, climb well past $1,000. If the model number stamped ahead of the grip starts with a 5, lean in. That is the premium end of the line. The next one came from a company most people only know as a mall store, and that is the mistake. Number 4. The Orvis Bamboo Rod. People know Orvis as a modern store in the shopping center, so they assume an old Orvis rod is nothing special. Wrong. The vintage bat and kill and the early impregnated bamboo rods are genuine collector pieces, hand-built in Manchester, Vermont, and they hold value precisely because Orvis never stopped being respected. Orvis pioneered the impregnated bamboo process, where the cane is soaked in resin so it shrugs off the humidity that destroys ordinary bamboo, which is exactly why so many of theirs survived to be found today. A vintage Orvis bamboo brings $225 to nearly $500, more for the scarce models, and anything with the original bag and tube. Keep the tube, it's half the value. The next rod is a connoisseur's secret. Quick word, because the next 3 rods are where a dusty stick turns into serious money. If you want every one of these makers, every price, and the exact stamps that tell a fortune from firewood, all in one place, I put it in a book, The Logo Tax, and it is linked in the description and the pinned comment. Now, the top 3. Number 3, the Phillipson. Bill Phillipson built rods in Denver, Colorado, and among people who actually know bamboo. His name is spoken with real respect, revered for performance that punches far above what people paid. Because he is less famous than the East Coast Masters, his rods are still a relative bargain. The pacemaker and the better models running around $400 to $700 and rising fast as collectors catch on. His rods carry a signature and a serial number just ahead of the grip, and once you learn to spot that Denver script, you will never walk past one again. If you find a rod signed Phillipson, you have not found old hardware. You have found a rod that serious collectors are quietly cornering before the rest of the world catches on. The next 2 names are the holy ground of bamboo. Number 2, the Paul Young rod. Paul Young, out of Michigan, is one of the legendary American makers, and his famous tapers, the Para 15 and the Little Midge, are chased by collectors worldwide. These are not field rods. They are the work of a master, and the market treats them that way. A Paul Young Deluxe has sold for $4,000, with his better rods running well into the thousands. And the master, Lyle Dickerson, sits right beside him at nearly $3,000 and up. If a rod is signed Paul Young, you are holding a small fortune disguised as an old fly rod. And number 1 looks exactly like a dusty stick and sells for the price of a car. Taking the top spot, the Master Trio, Payne, Garrison, and Gillum. These are the most valuable bamboo fly rods on earth, and the cruel part is they look like simple, elegant old sticks. A Payne, made by the legendary Payne family. A Garrison, by Everett Garrison, whose rods are studied like fine art. And a Gillum, by H.S. Pinky Gillum, so rare that one sold at a Lang's auction for $10,030. Exceptional rods from these masters bring $5,000 to $20,000 at auction. Here's why it's number 1. It does not look like money. There are no flashy fittings, no bright finish, just clean wraps and a plain signature that a stranger would never look at twice. A person cleaning out a relative's house sees a thin old bamboo rod in a beat-up tube and puts a $5 sticker on it. The collector who reads the name Payne, or Garrison, or Gillum above that cork does not hesitate. That single faded word is the difference between firewood and a fortune. These 7 rods are not valuable because they are old. They are valuable because they were built by hand, by makers who are mostly gone now. In a craft the world stopped mass producing the day fiberglass and then graphite took over. That's why the supply is finite and the prices only climb, while the rod you bought last year is already worth nothing. If you already own 2 or 3 of these, you are ahead of almost everyone, and you did not even know it. Before you sell another old rod for pocket change, check the closets, the rafters, and the aluminum tubes in the back of the garage, and read the name above the cork before you price anything. Here's the part that stings. One day, someone else clears out that garage, And if they do not know to read that name, a $4,000 rod goes out with the trash. So learn it, and make sure the people you leave it to know it too. If you learned something today, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next hunt. Now tell me in the comments, which one do you already own, and which one did you sell or snap for firewood before you knew what it was worth? Next time, the old fishing reels quietly becoming priceless that might be sitting in your tackle box right now. I'll see you there.